Hello and welcome to the Personality Styles video. This video is based on DISC profiling and it's a great insight into 4 basic personality styles. It's a great concept. I love training people on it, and I've had people literally say in training sessions, had I known that many years ago, it would have saved my marriage. So listen up. If you're not familiar with it, you're certainly going to learn heaps. If you are familiar with the concept, then you may pick up some new tips or tricks about something that perhaps wasn't clear to you prior. So people are predictable, okay? We've got lots of different models out there, and DISC isn't the only one. It just happens to be a very popular one that has been around for quite some time. And you will see DISC in different adaptations as well, whether it's shark, whale, urchin, dolphin, or colours, red, blue, yellow, green. Lots of different ways, all around that sort of 4 concepts, 4 different personalities, and all centering on the same sort of stuff. Basically, models can show us what to look for, help us identify meaningful problems, and assist us in interpreting what we see. So, as you'll see here, this particular profile is based on 4 different quadrants. So we've got 4 different kinds of people in this world. We've got some people who are very task focused, some people who are quite people focused down the other end of the spectrum. Then we've got some people who are very fast paced and outspoken, extroverted style, and at the other end of the spectrum we've got introverted, more slower paced, relaxed style. They talk a little bit slower as well. And when we dice that up, what we actually get is the 4 different quadrants. So you'll see in the top right-hand corner, we've got the dominant director. In the bottom right-hand corner, we've got the interacting socializer. Bottom left is the steady relator, and top left is the cautious thinker. So just to give you an idea, dominant director might be someone like a CEO, might sit in that quadrant. Interacting socializer, lots of salespeople tend to be there. Cautious thinker, more your sort of engineering, COO kind of styles, and then your steady relators, make up the rest. Good team players down there. And so dissecting that in terms of, okay, well, what kind of numbers do we have evident within workforces? Stats are showing that sort of 12% of a workforce is in dominant director, 21% interacting socializer, 42% steady relator, 25% cautious thinker. So these are not exact figures, but these are just sort of averages. Obviously, it's helpful to understand what you do actually have, because a good high-performing team will actually have somebody from every quadrant. Because what that means is you get quite good diversity in terms of group discussion and group decision making. When teams have too much of one particular trait, that's when they can be heavily skewed in a certain strength, and then that leaves them quite exposed to their weaknesses because they just don't have someone in the team providing that opposing opinion. So when you find somebody quite difficult or challenging to deal with, often it's because they are in the opposing quadrant to what you are. And I'll give you a prime example that I've seen play out the world over in lots of different teams. You've got a salesperson in an interactive socializer capacity, and so they're quite extroverted, fast-spoken, very bubbly people kind of people. And they need to be. We hire them for those skills because that's what we need them to possess. Now, salespeople often take the order, and that then requires them to pass the order on to the engineer. And the engineer tends to sit more in that cautious thinker space, so very task-focused, introverted kind of person. So the interacting socializer salesperson needs to know where we're at with an order, and so they go bounding down to the engineering department to find out exactly where they're at. Stand over the engineer's desk and in their big booming bubbly voice ask them for an update on where the status is of the particular project they're working on. Now, for the engineer, who's very task-focused, introverted kind of person, that can annoy them enormously. The engineer would far prefer that you just sent them an email, let them get back to you in their own time, so not instant gratification, quick, get me the answer now, because the cautious thinker also likes to be correct. They like to give the right details. So giving you an off-the-cuff kind of answer, it may be ready by, doesn't sit well with them. So without the salesperson even understanding what they're doing, that can be impacting their chance of success in the communication with the cautious thinker just purely by them being themselves. Now, when you understand what what quadrant the person you are talking to sits in, then you can flex your style to suit the person. Because in communication, it's not actually about you. It's about the person you are trying to get the message to, convey the activity or the action to, and you need them to do something. So it's like when you're facing, you're at the cricket pitch and sometimes you've got a spin bowler, sometimes you've got a fast bowler. Well, you have to change your batting technique to suit accordingly. It's the same kind of concept here. The more tools that you've got in your toolkit to make your communication effective, the far more effective you will be as a communicator and as a leader. So let's delve a little bit into what do they actually mean. So the dominant director is generally extroverted and task-focused. So they are generally concerned with power and control. And so the motto of this particular quadrant is normally lead, follow, or get out of my way. Don't go putting barriers in, don't go questioning me. Lead, follow, or get out of my way. Now, when you're dealing with a dominant director, get to the point quickly. Do not ramble. They're very, very fast-paced, quick-thinking people. A couple of lines in an email is all they need. If you're going to send them a big, long-winded email, they're barely going to read through the third line. Know what you are talking about, okay? Be very succinct and to the point. Get right in there, tell them what they need to know, and talk in terms of results. Show them how it's actually going to benefit them, and also give them choices, okay? They like to be in control. They like to lead. So you giving them choices will allow them to feel more in control. Let them take the lead and use logic and facts with these people. So the next quadrant, the interacting socializer. So these people are extroverted and people-oriented. So still the same as the dominant director from the extroversion, fast-paced side of life, but instead of being task-focused, the interacting socializers are the people-focused people. So you know how sometimes you might meet somebody and there's people that you get on with like a house on fire, there's an instant connection, and that's often because they sit in your quadrant. You just understand each other. And then there's probably times you've got the other people who make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and that's often because they are in the other side, complete opposite sphere of where you actually sit on here. And so the other two, that share one of the traits with you, you tend to get along okay with those as well because you've got certain traits that are the same. So in the interacting socializer quadrant, they want popularity and prestige, all right? Save face with these people, or they want to save face. So it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you look when you play the game is the motto for this side. So tips for dealing with them: make things fun and enjoyable, okay? These guys are the very extroverted, bubbly, social, life of the party kind of people. Be flexible, show your energy, talk about feelings and emotions. Avoid details and look at the big picture. Be optimistic and compliment them personally and often. Now, none of these are an actual, guaranteed science, but these are just tips about how you would handle these particular people. And often when we think about it, people will often say to me, oh my goodness, I've married my polar opposite. And it is true that opposites attract. So quite often in a relationship, you will find that two people are of the opposite side. So steady relator, introverted and people-oriented, they want sincerity and appreciation. It's not whether you win or lose, it's the friendship that counts. So these people really like good teamwork, okay? They're one of the challenges if you are a leader that sits in this steady relator category is that they can find it quite challenging to performance manage their team because they are very much people-focused and about the relationship and the friendship. So when you're dealing with steady relators, treat them with warmth and sincerity. Have a casual, easygoing style, clearly define instructions, acknowledge their helpful nature, and put them in group settings. So these people are great for social clubs and all of that kind of stuff. They really thrive in those group setting kind of environments. And then the last quadrant are the cautious thinkers. So these are introverted, task-focused people. So they're all about accuracy and precision, and it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Now, people in this quadrant need to be accurate. They need to have precision for good reason. You can't have an engineer who overlooks finer details. You can't have an accountant who doesn't look at the finer details. So they need to be like that for a lot of the skill set for the jobs that a lot of these people tend to occupy. So dealing with a cautious thinker, use an orderly, logical approach. Okay, they want the detail. You do not walk into the cautious thinker's office with a big picture, right brain concept, blurt out what you think is going to be a great idea and expect that they're going to hand over $10,000 of the budget for your wonderful idea. If you're going to get something approved by a cautious thinker, then you need to be very accurate. You need to show them what is it you want to do, when are you going to do it, how are you going to do it, what's the benefit to the company. They want all those finer details. So focus on process and procedures, be accurate, give it to them in writing, and allow them to think before making decisions. One team I worked with once, there was a CEO who was a cautious thinker, there was a CEO in waiting who was a dominant director. And between these two people, there was so much frustration in the organisation because the two of them never actually made a decision, because the dominant director would come bounding in with his big ideas and the cautious thinker would stop it every single time because he didn't have the detail he needed. And so what that meant was a bunch of employees who were completely frustrated because the two of them never actually saw eye to eye on anything and nothing ever got off the ground. So we've gone into what the actual, the quadrants sort of stand for. And again, this isn't an exact science, but it gives you a pretty good understanding. Now, on your best day ever, these are the positive attributes that any of those given quadrants may be possessing. So dominant director, competitive, demanding, determined, strong-willed, purposeful. Interacting socializer, sociable, dynamic, demonstrative, enthusiastic, persuasive. Steady relator, caring, encouraging, sharing, patient, relaxed. Cautious thinker, cautious, precise, deliberate, questioning, and formal. So that's on your best day. Now, what we need to understand is the overuse of any of our natural traits for the other quadrants. This is how it can look for them. When you're having your best day ever, you can be viewed by 75% of the other people in the workplace as these things. So a dominant director, being too much of a dominant director, can be seen as aggressive, controlling, driving, overbearing, intolerant. And an interacting socializer can be seen as excitable, frantic, indiscreet, flamboyant, hasty. Steady relator, docile, bland, plodding, reliant, stubborn. And a cautious thinker, stuffy, indecisive, suspicious, cold, and reserved. So none of these quadrants, there is no one best quadrant. A high-performing, effective team takes someone from every quadrant to come together. And what you want in a team is that good, healthy, robust discussion where people aren't afraid to challenge someone else in the team and their beliefs coming from, their side of things, but to be able to have a good, healthy, robust discussion where we can still come to a conclusion and we can still move forward with things. So just think about your behavior at times and whether sometimes you are being too much of your particular quadrant and how that might actually be perceived from the other people in your workplace or in your team. So it's a wonderful, wonderful concept. Explore it more with your coach in the session. There are certainly plenty of tools that you can use online to find out what you actually are. If you can't find any, just certainly talk to your coach and we'll be able to run you through one. So enjoy the video, or I hope you did enjoy the video, and I look forward to seeing you in the session. Bye-bye.